Imagine losing your home because rent jumped too high. For 30% of US renters, that fear is already real. You pay your rent on time, you cut back on small treats, you do everything right. Then one letter shows up on your door. Your rent is going up next month. Not by $20, by hundreds. Now you sit at the table with a pen and a stack of bills, trying to answer one question. What do you give up to keep a roof? If that notice came to your door this month, what would you cut first? Food, gas, medicine, your kids' activities. Type the first honest answer that hits your mind. Right now in the United States, almost half of all renter households spend more than 30% of their income on housing. Millions spend over half. Researchers call that cost-burdened. Most people just call it we cannot breathe. Since early 2020, average rents have jumped close to 30%, and the typical rent now hovers around $2,000 a month. At the same time, about 30% of renters say they struggled to pay rent at least once in the last year, and a huge share can only afford very low rent levels while cheap units vanish. Think about your own life for a second. How many months out of the last 12 did you feel safe about housing? And how many months did you look at the due date and feel your chest tighten? Be brave and put safe or stressed in the comments. So what actually happens when 30% of a country cannot really afford rent anymore? First, the small cuts start. People skip fresh food and buy cheap calories that fill the stomach but not the body. They delay dentist visits and health checks. They stop fixing the car until it breaks for real. They pull kids out of sports, music, and simple things like school trips. Parents start saying no to every small joy. The home stays, but life inside it shrinks. Then the quiet second step hits. Savings drain. Credit cards begin to carry more of the bill. One missed shift at work, one surprise car repair, one sick child now has the power to push a whole family past the line. In many cities, eviction filings have climbed back to, or above, pre-pandemic levels. Places like Phoenix, Houston, and parts of Florida see courts flooded with cases month after month. Picture a single parent in a city like Las Vegas. Rent is due on the 1st. Payday is on the 5th. For 4 days, they live in a kind of legal free fall. They send kids to school like normal, pack lunches, smile at drop-off. But in the back of their mind sits a question they cannot shake. Will there be a notice on the door when they get home? Ask yourself this. If your income stopped for just 1 month, how many months could you still cover rent where you live now? Type the honest answers below in the comments. It might be the most honest check of your real risk right now. Next, people start to crowd together. When rent jumps and wages do not, many renters make the same move. They double up. A grown child moves back in. A cousin sleeps on the couch. 2 families share a unit meant for one. Surveys show large numbers of renters cutting spending, draining savings, and moving in with others just to keep housing costs under control. In a city like Miami, Austin, or Denver, that looks like 10 cars outside a small house at night. It looks like kids doing homework on the floor because there is no table space. It looks like every cough, every late-night argument, every private moment echoing through thin walls and thin doors. If you have ever lived with too many people in a small space, you know how fast stress grows. Put "been there" in the comments if that was ever your life. On the wider map, this rent pressure is already changing where people live. Some leave high-cost coastal cities and move to cheaper states in the South or Midwest. Others move from decent rentals into older, more worn-down homes on the edge of town because that is all they can reach. Many people who wanted to buy and build some stability are stuck renting instead because the income needed to buy a typical home has shot far past what they earn, especially with higher interest rates. Here is the twist that makes this feel even worse. On charts, rent growth looks like it is cooling, but it cooled at a level that is still far higher than before. Since the start of the pandemic, rents have risen close to 30% on average. Even if monthly changes look calm now, that big jump does not vanish. For a renter who was just scraping by in 2019, back to normal in 2025 still means paying far more for the same old space. So what comes next if this keeps going? You start to see more evictions, not only in poor neighborhoods, but in places that never thought of themselves as at risk. More families move mid-year, pulling kids out of schools and away from friends with almost no warning. More people live farther from their jobs, spending extra time and gas on long drives or slow buses because closer places no longer fit the budget. Some sell their car just to keep the keys to the apartment, then find that every simple task, from groceries to doctor visits, now takes 3 times as long. In many towns, small landlords try to hold the line because they know their renters by name. They see the kids grow up. They understand when a car breaks down. But they face higher taxes, higher repair costs, and much higher mortgage payments on their own loans. Large corporate landlords who own hundreds or thousands of homes follow a simple rule set by investors: raise rents to the highest level the market will tolerate, even if that means turning over a steady tenant for a higher-paying one. In parts of the country, single-family rents are now more than 40% above pre-pandemic levels, and big firms hold a growing slice of that stock. Do you rent from a small local owner or a big company with a call center and an app? Type local or corporate in the comments. You will see 2 very different worlds. If nothing changes, more people will be pushed into choices that do not feel like choices at all. Move far away from your support network to chase lower rent. Accept a much lower living standard in a rougher area. Or live one missed payment away from the street, hoping that luck holds a little longer. That is the math many renters in the US already live with every day, even if no one on TV says it in simple words. So where is the way out for someone watching this right now? At a personal level, the first step is clarity, even if it hurts. Work out what share of your income really goes to rent and basic utilities. Not a guess, a clean number. If it is over 30%, you are in the same crowded boat as nearly half of renters today. If it is over 50%, you are in the danger zone where one shock can take the roof. Next, look at what tools exist where you live. Some cities and counties have tenant helplines, legal clinics, and emergency support funds. Some community groups, churches, and charities quietly step in with partial rent when someone is about to tip over. In some places, landlords will agree to a longer lease, a smaller increase, or a payment plan if it keeps a good tenant in place. None of this feels fair, and none of it is easy. But knowing your options is still better than waiting for a surprise notice on the door. Then think about your medium-term plan, not only the next bill. Could you move to a cheaper unit in the same area before a crisis hits? Could you share a place by choice now instead of by panic later? Could you pick up one more small income stream for the next year and use it only for housing and debt? You cannot fix the housing system on your own, but you can buy yourself a margin of safety inside it. In the bigger picture, the country has a supply problem that no single renter can solve. The US is short millions of homes, and a lot of the new units that do get built sit at the luxury end of the market, not the bottom. Older cheap rentals get torn down, flipped, or pushed up into higher price brackets. Unless there is a real push to build and preserve homes that normal incomes can support, the rent squeeze will not vanish. It will just move from one group to the next. You might feel small next to that list. That feeling is real. But you are not powerless. You can show up when your city debates zoning or rent policy. You can support local efforts for fairer rules if they exist. You can tell your own story to friends, family, and online, so people see this as a pattern, not a personal failure. Shame keeps people quiet. Silence keeps bad systems in place. If this video made you feel a little less alone in what you are carrying hit-like, share it with someone who keeps saying, "I feel like I am drowning, but everyone else seems fine." And subscribe if you want straight talk about housing, money, and the quiet shifts that decide who gets to feel safe and who stays on the edge. This channel is for people who are tired of hearing that the economy looks great while their own rent eats their future. If that sounds like you, you are exactly who this is for.